Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, mamas. Welcome back to the podcast. So, I hope you are having an amazing week. It is a nice sunny day today. So, that means spring is upon us. And I'm excited about that because I despise winter, considering I live in the Midwest. I grew up in the West Coast, trying to get back to the West Coast because I don't do winters out here. And I'm not a fan of snow. I mean, where I come from, yeah, if you go up to the higher elevations in the mountains, yeah, you get snow. However, in the desert, it don't snow. It doesn't. And if it does, it melts really quick. So, in today's episode, I wanted to touch on something that I feel is very important, that us as special needs moms and special needs parents all need to remember that knowledge is power and how to educate yourself for your special needs child. So, as I've navigated the journey of being a special needs parent, because I do have a daughter with autism and I have another daughter that's medically complex, it is something that I have come to learn as far as educating myself and just making sure that I arm myself with knowledge and education when it comes to advocating for my kids. I can tell you that in the beginning, it wasn't like that because as a special needs parent, I became a special needs parent 12 years ago to my very first daughter. And there's really not a lot of information as far as her genetic condition. When you spend hours and hours and hours on Google trying to make sense and trying to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to navigate this? Um, what do I need to do? Who do I need to call? What services exist out there that can help her, that can help me, that could alleviate some financial burden that this is going to bring? Because we all know as special needs parents, the financial burden is always there. And a lot of times, yes, we may get the medical waiver or different types of grants and things like that to alleviate some of the pressures. However, it's not enough. And I know there is like a bill going around about taking away um the the paid caregivers portion, which I know I've read about on social media, and I need to really dive into that story, that the United States government wants to take that away from parents who get paid to take care of their special needs and disabled kids. Well, I think that's a crock of bullshit because if you're not stepping in and helping me, because a lot of times we have to find respite care and sometimes it has to come out of our pocket. Why would you want to take some financial, stability away? Because a lot of times when you have children who have medical complexities, a lot of times we have to leave the workforce. We have to stay home with them because we can't find that adequate care, respite care, caregiver, nursing care, because those things come at a very high cost. So, one of the things that I've come to find out is I know in every state there is a training center. So, it's PTIs, I believe, is what they call it. I've come to find that out when my second daughter was diagnosed with autism, and this was back in 2015. So she was probably what? Um, Actually, 2016, excuse me. So she was about a year old, and we had her tested because she was not hitting any of her milestones. So the pediatrician figured we need to get her tested. So we got an early diagnosis then. And I come to find out because I had asked, listen, I'm not very familiar. I need some kind of resources if you can help me. And that's when I came to find out what those parent training centers are. And they give you a wealth of information. And I'll make sure to link it below on this episode as far as where you can get training, you can get education, get help. It opens up a whole um, just a whole thread and realm of different possibilities on how to find help. Because we all know, as parents of special needs kids, the help, like, you have to search for it. They do not make it easy for you. And I know some of the moms that I follow that are special needs moms on Instagram, you can also call 211. It's available in every state, and tell them that you have a child with special needs. What are the resources? How can I get help? Which is something I came to find out later on, because nobody really shared that with me. Like, I would cry out for help and they would say, "Oh, well, here's this, here's that." And it was like at no end. But then again, every state is different. Like the state that I lived in, not the one I currently live in now, but the one I lived in, like the resources are just very far few in between. But what I've come to find out is the resources that have that weren't there are there now. So it has, evolved over time. So what's really important is if you have a social worker that's assigned to your child, make sure that you get as much information as you can. Educate yourself, go to those parent training centers, and suck out all the knowledge from all those people. Get all the information, get websites, phone numbers, whatever the case is, to best get the help and the resources that you need for your child. Sometimes I wish I would have really dove in deep to get more information, to really just arm myself with more knowledge. However, I also had to maintain food on the table, a roof over my kids' head, to pay for her medical supplies and all her doctor visits, and to make sure that the house kept running as a full-time working mom. What I'm coming to find out is in this season of life, because she has gotten more specialists added to her team, that working outside the home is becoming unrealistic for me. And I do want to make sure that I am home with my children so I am more present and I'm there for them. However, sometimes we have to take a step back and be like, okay, working outside the home, is this realistic anymore? Is this really, benefiting me? Because I've kind of taken a step back, and since I have a very physical job as a CT technologist, it is really challenging, because now she's going to probably have a couple more surgeries, and they are long recovery times, which will require me to be off of work for that. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you can take FMLA, you can take intermittent FMLA. Yes. And those things do exist at my job. But let's remember, this is the United States, where FMLA is not paid. So you have to use your paid time off, and you can only exhaust that until the bank is empty. Okay. And I've exhausted a lot of paid time off due to illnesses, doctor's appointments, and taking off of work because of co parenting issues. So it's a lot to juggle, and it's a lot of responsibility. So what I want you to take away from this episode is that arm yourself with knowledge. Knowledge is power, okay? There's never too much information that you can get. You can always get more information, and we don't gatekeep. We share information. And, if I could help the next special needs mom that is just starting her journey, then that means everything, because I wish I would have had that same tribe and support when I was starting out as a special needs mom. Because we all know, when you're brand new to this, situation, and this with your child, it's a very overwhelming process. And we feel lost and we feel unsure, and it's a very scary place to be. So I don't want you to feel afraid. I want you to feel, okay, how am I going to get the help for my child? Where do I need to look? What kind of training do I need? What kind of education can I get? And how can I better serve and help my child? Those are the things that I want you to take away from this episode, because that would have been really helpful for me when I started out. And I hope this helps you. So I appreciate you listening to this podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. Helps the podcast out, and it reaches a lot more of you special needs moms out there and special needs parents in general. So I will link everything I talked about as far as the PTIs, and also kidswaivers.org, which is a great resource. And I know I've talked about it on a previous episode, where you can find resources and services in all 50 states. So make sure you check out the show notes for that. I will have all the links for that so you can check those out and get some resources and help for your child and for yourself. As always, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you in the next episode.